Plaintiff Dale Vernon says when his son was 24 years old, he passed away from a heroin overdose, and Dale has no idea what led to his son's drug use. Dale claims prior to his passing, his son was in jail for heroin possession, and he's suing his son's mother for funeral expenses and legal fees. Defendant Deborah Heim and her husband Gerald say Deborah's son was such a good kid before he passed away, and he helped so many people get off of drugs, but he just couldn't help himself. Deborah says instead of paying for the funeral, her money went towards helping her other child cope with this tragedy.
Start with you.
My son Douglas passed away of a heroin overdose. That happened October 5th, 2012.
How old was he?
He was 24 at the time, and it happened here in Chicago.
Sorry to hear that.
Douglas was in rehab twice. The last time in Florida. When he left there, he made up his mind he did not want to go back to the same environment he was in, same influences on his life, and decided to move to Chicago. His older brother was there. He had a very good job the summer of 2012. He lost it. I believe that was due to attendance issues. We don't know whether that was a stressor and led him to drugs, or drugs found him and it led to his attendance issues.
Sir?
I got a call from Doug on the 29th of September 2012. He was looking for money. That's not a new thing. He wanted to buy some food. I sent some money via Western Union, and normally he calls back and says, "Dad, thanks, appreciate it. Got it, we're good." Didn't happen. I started to worry about that. Text, called. Monday, the 1st, I got a call from Cook County Jail. It was Doug. He was letting me know where he was and how he got there. His older brother and his girlfriend scooped him up and got him home safe, and his older brother offered to stay with him that night. That was declined by Doug, but he was home safe. That was all right. Next day, I really thoroughly expected to hear from him and did not, and once again started texting and calling and got more worried and even called his older brother. So his older brother went to the apartment, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Roommate didn't answer. Went around, looked in the bedroom window, and knew something was very, very wrong. His older brother kicked in the outer door, kicked in the locked bedroom door, and found Douglas blue.
I can interject. I'm the older brother.
Stand up. State your name.
My name is Nicholas Vernon. As far as I knew, he was doing fine until I found out what he got arrested for, and that's when I thought to ask him, what's going on? Have you been using again? And by that time it was too late, because I picked him up from jail that same day and he OD'd that same night. I asked him to come with me and stay with me tonight, and he said, "No, I'm tired, I just want to take a bath." But turns out he went out, got what he needed to get, and that was it.
Did you want to speak before we get into the crux of the lawsuit?
This is my husband, Gerald, and I've been divorced from the plaintiff for about 13 years. And Gerald had been Doug's stepfather since 2001. Since he was 10, he's known him. We've been very involved in Doug's life. We were the ones who sent him to rehab. I'm the one who has his health insurance. And, when he got out of rehab the first time, we just didn't want him to come back to Buffalo because we knew he would fall back in with all the kids. And he was such a wonderful, wonderful boy, and he helped so many people get off of drugs and make their lives better, but he just couldn't help himself. It's just such a sad thing. The week before this all happened, I was not feeling well, and I asked Dale to step up and help. I don't know, he didn't tell us anything that was happening. We didn't know Doug was in jail. We didn't know this was happening, and so we
By the
never...
way, when Doug called...
Excuse
he'd-
me.
No,
excuse,
he had
excuse me,
asked
excuse
not
me.
to tell
wait,
you.
wait, let me finish and then you can say. But until I got the call that he was dead, I didn't know any of this was happening.
That son didn't tell you?
No, I don't know what
So
happened.
neither of them told you?
No,
Okay.
but I just would have come immediately.
He was in there twice as long as he should have been because they didn't know that he was even in there. He was the only one. He was in control of the situation, and I don't agree that he controlled the situation properly.
Control in what way?
Because he was paying for the lawyer for my brother. He sent the money snail mail instead of Western Union. Could have got there immediately. $100 was too much for him to do. So he just sent it in the regular mail, left my brother sitting in there twice as long. He got out of jail. First thing he does is shoot up. If he would have got out of there a few days sooner, maybe his tolerance would have been not enough for him to OD.
What did he go in for?
He got picked up for heroin possession. That was the first time he was ever picked up for anything
So I
like
guess
that.
the point I'm making, when he went in, he was on heroin, and the day he got out, he was on heroin. Blame the drugs. Sir, what do you want to tell me about suing for half of the funeral expenses and legal fees?
Okay. After we found out the bad news, we gathered. I had to rush to Buffalo from Pennsylvania because my parents are elderly. I wanted to tell them in person. Their house has been a gathering place for a long, long time. We all gathered there. At that point, we verbally agreed in front of all those people that we were going to split the funeral and death expenses, and Doug's passing away brought an estranged family together, and unfortunately, being here is undoing a whole lot of good that was done.
You could have just let it go. You didn't have to do this.
What was the agreement on the payment toward expenses?
50-50.
Okay. And the legal fees?
The legal fees were $500 to a Chicago attorney.
And she agreed to that?
No,
Yeah, she was a full partner in all of these decisions.
it's not true though.
Those are two different times.
Yeah, you're right.
So did she agree on the legal fees at the time you incurred them?
No, I guess she didn't know then because I did that
Right.
beforehand. You're right.
You can't get something from her if she didn't agree to give it to you.
Okay.
Let me hear from you, ma'am.
We didn't have a formal agreement, but what we did say is Dale's words were that we wanted to take a team approach to, for instance, Nick had a delayed reaction to dealing with Doug. He found Doug and had to handle the aftermath of Doug's death because he was the only one here in Chicago. He had to pack up his belongings. The night of his death, he had to call the coroner, the police, be there. I just couldn't believe he was handling it. And he came back to Buffalo for the funeral, and then when Nick went back to Chicago,
What she's getting at is I was fine. I handled everything fine for the first 2 months. I was still in shock.
and then he went
And
home.
then I got back home and I started feeling, the depression that everybody else had been feeling a month or two before. So I was down and out for a few months. She helped me.
I brought him back to Buffalo, found him a
financially.
doctor, and took care of his expenses, got him treated for, the depression he was feeling
Good.
from his brother's death.
Good.
All of these things I felt were death-related expenses. And Dale didn't like me making these decisions on my own and didn't think they were related to Doug's death. So that's where the discrepancy is, that I spent a lot of money on those things. One of the things I did was help him get his degree from UB, which they had been withholding because he took an extra semester and he had to pay back that semester. We also arranged for a memory tree at Amherst Town Park to be planted in Doug's memory, which will
He was
be,
cremated, so instead of a gravestone, we
yeah, there's no
a
place
memory
for
tree.
people to mourn him.
This is down the road from where we live, and
And
you spent
I-
a lot of time there. Spent a lot
I
of time there.
I think Dale is
One of his
probably
favorite
mad that we
places.
didn't include him in that either. I don't know.
It's a beautiful tree. You're really giving his life added value today.
Yeah.
And so I guess what you're saying today in your defense is that the expenses ran into the effects of the funeral. What are you saying you spent?
Well, if
8
you-
on the school.
well, all the things added up to about
doctors.
$18,000 when I got
So
done with
even if we
everything.
take school away, she believes, now this is her belief, that she has expended $10,000.
There's an email from March 13th where it says, if this looks okay, I can send you a check right away. Let me know, Debbie.
I see it, please. So essentially you're saying she had agreed earlier.
There's a verbal, now there's a written.
Do you agree that you submitted this saying, agreeing that you would pay toward it?
We agreed to sharing expenses.
You're referring to the funeral expenses, and you're being very specific
Yes, I
with
am.
the expenses, saying that it's for funeral home, cremation, funeral brunch.
That's right.
and with the exception of the legal fees, which I'm going to deny you because she did not agree at that point, that is $300 that I'm going to deny you. Everything else I'm going to grant you. Judgment for the plaintiff minus the $300.
Thank you.